Welcome to the Stand on Your Investment podcast, presented by UC Hunting Properties and Expedition Land Management, where professionals from around the country will dive deep into land management strategies, investing in recreational real estate, and all things hunting.
Welcome to the newest installment of Stand on Your Investment podcast. Got the whole A squad here today. Special guest, Jim Jones, that we're going to get to here shortly. I'm Kurt Headington with Expedition Land Management and UC Hunting Properties.
I'm Chris Van Gerpen, same thing.
Travis Homley with UC Hunting Properties and United Country Midwest Lifestyle Properties.
I'm Josh Gens with UC Midwest Lifestyle Properties and UC Hunting Properties.
Perfect. Whoa. Jim's just going to jump in and start talking. Shocker.
I got the direction.
Yeah, we do have a director over there, Turtle, sitting in the corner.
He looks more like an air traffic controller over there.
I mean, all of a sudden he's the boss or something. No, maybe he is. But Jim, we are going to turn it over to you. Jim's the regional vice president for United Country. Handles a lot of the recruiting efforts, and that's really the focus of today's podcast, is to talk about what good looks like when it comes to recruiting, whether it's offices, agents, you name it. We're moving into recruiting season. So, Jim Jones, give us the snapshot of who you are.
Well, thanks, Kurt. Thanks for having me here. Good to see all of you guys who I've known for quite some time.
Sure.
I am Jim Jones, Area Vice President for United Country Real Estate. I cover 8 states. Wisconsin, where we're at now, all the way down to Oklahoma. Get to work with a lot of great people, a lot of good people that love the outdoors, like that lifestyle. And just, again, thanks for having me here.
Yeah, happy to have you here. Jim, just give us, like I said, we get current state. I want to know a little bit about your background and what brought you to where you're at in your career.
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. Out of college, I went to work in agricultural marketing. I worked for a company called DTN, which you guys may not have heard of it, you younger guys like Josh, but it was kind of the forerunner to the internet. Farmers a lot of times, and co-ops, they'd have satellite dishes on top of their roof, and farmers and cattle people would go there and look at the market conditions and the weather, and they'd basically just spend their day looking at their DTN screen to see what the markets are doing.
Well, I remember as a kid working on farms, and they always had it going in the background.
Yeah.
Is that right after they settled the West?
It was similar. it was close.
It didn't go directly from carrier pigeon to the internet. There was a few steps.
There were some carriages in there and some covered wagons.
They used to call Jim the Red Rider.
Yeah.
Horse delivered.
Horse up, 50 cents.
Sell.
So no, and then that got me an interview with Farm Journal Media, which I went to work for them, and their property was Ag Day Television, and so went out there in about 2000.
Were you actually on TV, Jim?
No, absolutely not.
That's kind of what I figured. But anyway, continue.
He's got a face for radio.
Wow, this is a tough crowd. But yeah, I did. I worked with clients like Monsanto and John Deere and selling ad space, building relationships, and then that led me to. I got recruited by Farm and Ranch magazine, which was rural real estate, which is what my beak in the outdoor property segment. Loved it. And then a couple of years later, I was working for a franchise, vice president of marketing, out in Denver, Colorado. But I got a call back from the folks at United Country, people that knew me from when I was at Farm and Ranch magazine. So everything kind of comes full circle.
Yeah, everything's connected one way or another.
Right, exactly. And so been there now almost 7 years, and had a great opportunity to meet all of you guys through those years. So
Ta-da!
Ta-da.
Here we are.
Kaboom! Normally, Jim, we spend most of our podcast talking about different farms, setups, habitat improvement, hunting, right? I mean, because it's kind of our lifeblood and our passion. Today, we want to take time to kind of pick your brain a little. Being in the real estate segment, we realize that recruiting season is approaching quickly, if not even maybe mid-season, I guess. It's the end of the year. There's a lot of agents, a lot of brokers. You know, if they're going to make a change, typically they're going to do it at year end. So today we're going to look at you as the recruiting expert.
I like that.
Yeah, that's a
Kind of a big word right there.
big word.
Expert.
Jim Jones, expert,
Well,
weird.
It's more than 50 miles away. I think.
Different area code, right? But no, Jim, from your perspective, I mean, with recruiting season upon us, obviously everyone in this room is cognizant of the fact that there's definitely a market shift. Maybe coming off the highest of the high of all time and probably landing somewhere back into a normal range. But from your perspective, and again, with recruiting in mind, what are you seeing, Jim? I mean, you're all over the place talking to a lot of people.
Well, that's a great question, and it's always over my 7 years, I've seen a few ebbs and flows. Mostly, the trajectory of the last 3 or 4 years has been straight up.
Yep.
And being involved with United Country, like I have, I've seen it. Well, I've recruited every single one of you guys at one point, so I've seen it.
Love when he takes credit for it.
My first franchise sale was to Travis.
I was already a franchise holder, though. That was a gimme.
Yeah, it was a layup. I'm like,
Low hanging
I won't.
fruit.
It's a different conversation. I'll say that. First conversation we had, and I don't think we can use the language on a family podcast like this.
All of a sudden, it's a family podcast.
Yeah.
So, the last 2 or 3 years, 4 years, we've seen a big uptick in the hunting specific piece of it. And so, that's been a lot of focus for me in the Midwest as I've recruited offices. Travis has added to his portfolio, including, his relationship with you guys. But prior, to that, I mean, United Country's been around 100 years almost. Started in the 1920s, and now we're in the 2020s. So they've seen it. They've seen advertising on DTN and probably carrier pigeon before that. And so they've seen kind of the, the company as a whole has withstood all of that, just being so, I'll say, diverse within the rural real estate space. And then that's kind of led to a conversation on what we call lifestyle properties. So they offer, not to do a sales pitch for United Country, but I do work there, and so
It's like that's what you do or something.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
So you could go, and I think Travis is a really good example of it, quite frankly. You could recruit a team of agents that have expertise in hunting, farmland, lakefront property, residential, horse property. I'm just thinking right around here where we're at in Wisconsin, all those different property types. It just really helps give you tools to withstand the fluctuations of the market itself.
Basically, don't bottleneck yourself into a specific segment because you could live and die by it.
Exactly. We know that a lot of residential property, in some sense, is kind of recession-proof, as they call it. But people don't spend money in a down economy on an emotional purchase like recreational property. However, people always need shelter, and so maybe that gives a company like this the chance to sell residential property and keep the flow going on a wide variety of property types. So for me, it's a pretty good, I'll say, offering that I am able to offer people like you guys. And Josh is a great example. We recruited him for well over a year to try to bring you in with your background, which was you're a hunter that was selling residential property for the most part.
Yeah.
And so that's you're a different type of in a different segment than somebody that are very hunting specific.
Yes.
So it's kind of cool that we can all kind of come together. We have a lot in common, but we all bring our own strengths to the table.
Well, I think the common bond, regardless of what level of hunter or whatever you would call yourself, let's be honest, everyone's working to afford the next hunt or the next tree stand, the next rifle, or so I think it's funny that you teed it up that way with Gen's, like 100%. Yeah, hunting's his passion. How does he feed the passion? By selling real estate. So.
Exactly.
And you look at the different verticals and everything, not just the hunting and the outdoor space, but you have other outdoor stuff in the rural setting of United Countries agents. I mean, you got ski properties. I mean, that's people's lifestyle.
Yeah.
And you know, there's vineyards and...
So United Countries is the #1 seller of golf course properties. And us three have golfed together. I don't know, are you a golfer?
I try not to, Jim.
Yeah.
Golf,
Even when
golf,
he tries
golf is
to,
only, it's just an
I can see
excuse to
Chris
drink
being a
beer.
pretty
And I
good
He's
don't.
gotten kicked off of 3 golf courses for shooting the ball with his shotgun when it goes off.
I've never understood. You guys are all so concerned about the damn fairway. I'm like, we paid for the whole course. Let's use it. So yeah, a little different mindset.
You
but
take shotgun start to a whole new level, don't you?
fact, depending what we're doing, but yeah,
Got it.
typically.
Then he arrowed a deer on the 5th hole. You know, I mean, the thing's just...
Well, that's what golf carts are for, right? They're quiet, relatively fast. You don't have to work up a sweat.
Right.
All right, let's get back to serious business, Jim. So the market shift, you don't think it's as traumatic for UC offices clearly because of the diversification? I mean, is that the gist of what you're saying?
Yeah, I would say that's accurate. I think that helps to have a diverse portfolio. I mean, obviously, everything's going to be subject to market shifting. I mean, almost immediately this past summer when the interest rates started climbing, you saw construction noticeably slow down. Where I live in Lincoln, Nebraska, kind of on the suburbs, you know, there's new construction going on, and I saw it, you know, from machinery going, everything to, I mean, it's still kind of going, but a lot slower.
Slowed it down, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
Instead of getting multiple offers at more than asking price, you know, it kind of normalized back to, you know, you have to really work to sell and showcase property. And you know, that's historically been the case in real estate. We all know from buying and selling homes, but things got so crazy there for the last year or two. And people, I think, you know, I think that maybe thought it was going to be a little easier, and now that it's kind of stabilizing a little back with a slightly higher rate, I think people are still going to always want a shelter.
There's always demand for, I mean, and the population that grows, you know, continually in the United States, and, you know, we didn't think the millennials were going to be as big of a buyer pool as they have been. So, you know, they've gobbled up a lot of the, you know, inventory, and, you know, they've also been getting into the rural landscape, you know, with family, making more family compounds. So, you know, they don't make any more land, so that being gobbled up, it's people are still seeing when the right property comes up, they're still going to buy it because they can't wait 10 years to maybe build that property like they can with a house. So
exactly, and you know, we're seeing it, Travis, with the internet economy. People are able to work from home, and so they can almost choose the lifestyle they want. You know, they don't have to live in suburbia and commute to a downtown office. They can engage from great locations like Portage, Wisconsin, or Decorah, Iowa, and you know, still have that great lifestyle that a lot of people really like.
And I think all the, you know, government programs that with these communication companies with the grants of getting fiber optics everywhere not only has helped, you know, that happen, but it's helped the farmers get more tuned in, you know, the dairy farmers and the hog farmers to be able to expand their businesses and make them more digitized so they don't need as much help, but they can still expand. And I think it, you know, the rural communications with fiber optics has really changed the, you know, the path for rural living.
Well, you can stay plugged in. Doesn't mean you can't be at the lake or up at your deer shack or whatever. I mean, if you're streaming, you're streaming.
Exactly. And then the other piece of that I think goes hand in hand is farmland. Farm prices have never been higher. or they're amongst as high as they've ever been adjusted for inflation. And people are always going to need, the world needs grain.
Yep.
And that goes back to my days in agricultural marketing. The world needs grain, and the world needs shelter. And so being United Country, we're the #1 seller of farmland in the U.S., as well as, when you add in, the demand for farmland has never been higher. When you add in the lifestyle elements that are available, I think, for me, it says, hey, we're in a pretty good space. We're not a commodity real estate company. We're sort of able to differentiate ourselves
Sure.
based on, those factors and more. But those are pretty good drivers.
I agree with you. I mean, we see it being Iowa guys, farmland drives everything. I mean, literally everything. If the farm ground's going high, the recreational's going high, because a lot of those farmers they'll split it right off. They could care less.
It's always amazed me. Iowa has probably southern Minnesota, northern Iowa, there historically has been the most productive farmland in the world. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm pretty sure it was the first 400 bushel per acre, and that's where you see some of those northern Iowa farms.
Bringing 20, 25, 30 grand an acre.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, 27.5 an acre.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But
Pretty impressive. Well, yeah, it is crazy, but it's not if you're the big operator with 8,000 acres paid for and you're tacking on the next 200 on an average. They're going to bat an eye.
Right.
And bringing it back to the real estate portion, a lot of the buyers are cash buyers.
Yep.
And then, again, with United Country, and Travis's background is the auction business, if things do go bad and, you need to raise cash, having the ability to auction a property is pretty nice as well.
And not, I mean, it's with auctions, I mean, you see all these huge land prices. The majority of them are being done by auction.
That's
competitive
true.
bidding.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a commodity that we're selling at auction. It's no different than the New York Stock Exchange. So, auctions have, over the years had a bad, rap for coming in and saving the day when people are financially down. But it also, what we're seeing in today's age is transparency to the buyer, that they know that,
Fair playing field.
it's a fair playing field, exactly, Kurt. It's, we went through the $40,000-$50,000 over list price. If they know where the other people are at, they're bidding more with confidence. The seller knows that, they, got maximum dollars, and they won't go to the local store and say, well, you sold it to so-and-so, I wish I had an, opportunity. It just is so much more transparent to the public that I think you're going to continue to see more and more ground continually sell this way, like, it has been the last few years. It always has been, but I think it's more mainstream now.
One, I think the negative connotation's gone. Mm-hmm. I mean, I almost think it's becoming the norm.
Yep.
Outside of a family deal, with land trading hands, it's going to auction.
It's almost the opposite way now already, where if it doesn't go to auction, people think it's shady.
Yeah, you're probably right.
And I get a lot of realtors contact me that don't understand auctions, and they go, well, why is it going to auction? And, I don't understand auction. And I just say, well, the last couple of years, how many deals did you have that were multiple counters? They said a lot. I said, it's the same thing as an auction. Yeah. It's just that it's public, whether it's online, We're
going to get it done today.
Right. It's going to be done today, and, tomorrow the auction's not going to happen. It's already done. So.
Well, a lot of see it in residential world. Mm-hmm. I think that's where you're going. Yeah. All these escalation clauses is ultimately a silent auction. Mm-hmm. Right. It's just building in that bidding war, going back and forth. Mm-hmm. So it's no different than a live auction or an online auction. It's just done through paper.
Yeah.
And I think it's brought the general public to now understanding the auction process, whereas before, a lot of people didn't even know what an escalation clause was, what an auction might help them do.
Right.
And it's kind of brought that to the forefront, and I think that's why more people are becoming more okay with auction style sales process.
I remember the first escalation clause we put in a farmland purchase. And the other realtor was like, "What is this?"
Yeah.
This is our means to
How do I
buy.
explain this?
Right.
Yeah. Like, no, you can't tell him, but you can't tell the buyer this, but this is what it is. And we had to explain that clause to the other realtor. I'm like, well,
People work with professionals. Be careful.
yeah. So,
All right, let's shift gears, guys. I think we could talk about auctions and why all day, but Jim, this is your time to shine.
Okay.
So I want the Jim Jones spin on why United Country.
Well, I think I kind of, already.
You started on it.
Yeah, I think I touched on it a bit. We have 4 different personalities in this room, 5 including me, and I feel like there's a set of tools that each of you have to fit your own personal situations and expertise out of the gate. And then as an owner, like Travis and Josh are, as a franchise owner, you don't know what the next year is going to bring. You don't know what situations arise, what opportunities come up. Maybe there's agents you can recruit that are lakefront agents. I happen to know their area pretty well. Lakefront, there's hunting people. There's, an auctioneer. There's people that you may want to recruit to be an agent, which is huge in the real estate business. And you'll have a set of tools to give them. And by the same token, if you go to list a vineyard, a ski property, a hog confinement, you have those potential things to list. And in this day and age, it's hard to get listings right now. I mean, that's been the real estate world. You can go to each one of those different listing presentations and look like an expert just based on the tools you get from United Country. And again, United Country's been around for almost 100 years, so they have...
1925.
What's that?
1925.
Yeah, because that's 97 years, according to my cowboy math.
Close enough.
Yeah. Sure.
Well, and Jim, I guess I asked the question why you see, and we're going down this rabbit hole, but I mean, obviously there's lots of real estate companies that offer a franchise model probably similar to how we'd set up a UC office. But why does somebody pick Jim Jones and say, yep, I'm going to go UC? Beyond the fact that, hey, UC is 100 years old, and hey, they got all these, SPGs or specialty property groups. Like, coach me, coach the general public, coach our listeners.
That's a great question. So if you're in Decorah, Iowa, like you are, Portage, Wisconsin, or La Crosse, Wisconsin, the real estate mix is different than it is in where I live in Omaha, Nebraska. I'm from Omaha, I live in Lincoln, but
Same difference.
Minneapolis, Minnesota, Des Moines, Iowa, those are different.
Metro areas. Even to some degree, as you mentioned in Decorah, there's lots and lots of real estate agents. So the reason I feel like what United Country does best, and I've seen it happen with Travis's group. I have a group in Oklahoma that has multiple franchises, group in Nebraska now that they're up to multiple franchises, South Dakota. You can list and sell property. You can go after any listing you want. You can get more listings, and then you can market those listings to a broader audience. And we've talked about people coming in to rural areas. They might not be the neighbors anymore. A lot of times farmland is still sold to the neighbor, but they pay the price based on other market factors coming in. People coming in and looking at, I'm trying to say there's more competition for that land. It's not just the localized market anymore. So you combine those, getting more listings and marketing those listings to a broader audience, which is what United Country is all about. And then you add in the training, the technology, the things that are done for you, the idea flow. I mean, the people that are around. I mean, Travis, I know, talks to people all over the country. And so he's not just limited to Portage, Wisconsin, and what he can think of. He's like, well, what's working for you in southern Kansas? What's working for you in Florida? And that bank of ideas and that knowledge of almost 100 years, I feel like really adds to the value for us. Well, it kind of leads me to my next thing. Chris and I, clearly outsiders that were from the outdoor industry, and now embedded in real estate, which we love. We think this is awesome. But like even when we're working with and analyzing the top 10 lists, and I don't care if it's the top 10 brokers in the country or the top 10 agents in the country, there's a pretty common thread to what we see. And the top drivers are the guys really going out and becoming experts or having expertise in fields. The one we focus on, of course, is recreational properties or hunting properties, but it's repeatable. And I don't know that it matters if you're in Oklahoma, if you're in Kansas, if you're in Minnesota. Everyone talks about the Corn Belt states. We call them the deer states. And that's why we think it's very repeatable. But that's just our perspective, and I guess that's kind of what I wanted to ask you about, Jim. You work with enough people to know what does good look like, and now I'm talking all the way down to the broker or agent level. From your perspective,
Yes.
When analyzing the top performers, I mean, what are the common trends you see or the threads?
One thing I always say is I'd rather have somebody that is a good business person, has a business background, an entrepreneurial spirit, versus just somebody that's been in real estate, has their license. And I hate to use you as an example all the time, Travis, but I've had him talk to almost every one of the top prospects that I have identified in those states. I think of people in Oklahoma. They came from a business that did truck accessories, very successful business. They sold that business, made a lot of money, and then they wanted to get into the real estate because of the lifestyle. Was able to kind of connect Travis as a mentor, and they took off, and they're doing extremely well, very successful. We have a guy moving in to Shenandoah, Iowa. He was a successful business guy up in Ohio, loves the outdoors, has the passion for that. We've given him the tools to open and sustain his lifestyle that will feed his passion.
Yep.
But give him the tools to open a real estate company, and then also feed his passion. And then, so those are the kind of things. I mean, we knew Josh when we were recruiting him. He had the passion for real estate. Really, you can almost kind of tell when somebody's ready to get on there, do the things on their own, rather than working for somebody else and kind of carrying out the vision of somebody else. And I think with the United Country franchise, you own your own business. You can build
Jim won't say it, so I'm just going to state the obvious. Clearly, the most successful agents and brokers are part of the UC Hunting Properties Network.
Well, I certainly encourage people to join the UC.
Me too. I was trying to get him there. I asked like 4 questions. He wasn't picking up what I was putting down. I stated the
I
obvious.
can't read those cue cards.
Right, I was going to say, bigger teleprompter.
It's like all of a sudden we're here with Joe Biden. I thought it was Jim Jones.
Kurt, back to your question you asked Jim about why you see. Earlier I was overlooking your notes to kind of get prepared for what Kurt was going to say, because you never know what comes out of his mouth.
Well, we're not drinking.
Why United Country? I can 4 phrases is the largest integrated real estate and auction company in basically the world. We're into Canada now, Costa Rica, and
Well, that alone's a mouthful.
Right, yeah, and national presence with local expertise. With getting those people embedded in the communities and giving them the tools. The SPGs, we've talked about those, especially property groups, the different verticals, and lastly, I think the hugest thing is the culture. Mm-hmm. It's, you can go to a lot of association stuff and a lot of conventions, but it's like going to a family reunion when you go to you only see these people maybe once a year, but now, I take like Ben Jackson last year that won the hunt that went with us.
That's a friendship that'll go forever.
Forever. It's, that's the type of stuff, and you can lean on those people for advice, like what's going on in your area, and it doesn't feel like you're going to owe them something or they're going to owe you for divulging information. I mean,
They're glad to help, I think.
right. I mean, so the culture is a huge avenue in that. I mean, those 4 topics are, you know, kind of my elevator speech of why, you know, UC.
All of a sudden, it's like Trav does Jim's job better than Jim.
Right.
Oh, completely. I always say that.
It just picked up the
That's why he brings them in so
Right.
Well, I think that's an important point. I think the culture, and one thing I think you were trying to say is we make a very concerted effort to find the right people. We are not out there just recruiting anybody. We're finding the right people with entrepreneurial spirits, the people that want to be in real estate, that want to, you know, really put a fire behind their passion and get that. And I think that is one of the things that makes the culture so cool, is that we all have that kind of connection, whether it's a different lifestyle or not. There's a passion that kind of fires our real estate businesses. And that's what brings everyone together and kind of makes it, you know, more of a family atmosphere rather than just, hey, we're out here recruiting just anybody that wants to go and get their license and, and we're just going to collect dues. I think that's a huge differentiator between United Country, our regional companies, and just anybody that I've looked at in the system. They really try and find those right people.
People at the home office, they really care about your success. They want you to be successful. I mean, it's like I get more excited to hear, you know, about when you guys are top office. I think probably the Travis does, but it's like, you know, I mean, I was like really cheering you guys on as you rose to the top, and I feel like that's throughout the entire company. Get a chance to work with all those people at the home office. They, you know, they're not perfect, but they really try. They really care. They answer the phone. They show up.
Answer the phone, Jim. I like that. All right, so we're getting long-winded. So I'm going to get us back on track, Jim.
Oh, good.
So the last thing I'm going to put you on the spot for in today's podcast is Jim Jones perspective again. Jim, if you had to put 3 things as the key to success, and this could be, you can put a recruiting spin on it if you choose, or just a retention spin, maybe. I think recruiting and retention go hand in hand. They're just equally important. But give us the Jim Jones 3 keys to success for an agent or brokerage that's looking to expand.
Absolutely. And so the first thing is, because I've seen over 50 offices that I've started or that I've sold a franchise to, and they've, you know, a lot of times from scratch. So the first thing you have to do is have a leader that has the vision. Of course, it helps to have capital as well, you know, a plan. So if the first, you know, push to get listings in business, you know, when we say we're starting a business, the first 6 months is kind of a test phase. So you need it to have, you know, the ability to shift your plan as you go forward. So that's the first thing is that.
So leadership and capital is number 1.
Right?
Yep.
And with the vision. The second thing is that, and I think Josh mentioned it, that day in, day out, you just have to keep at it. You have to answer the phone. You have to manage put your plan together, but execute your plan every day. Whether it's going, you know, at the agent level, it's being accessible to meetings, like, you know, from a hunting perspective, if it's Pheasants Forever or just showing up, Realtors Land Institute.
Being involved. Right?
Yeah.
You're a grinder.
Yeah.
You need to be a grinder.
Yeah. You have to do, every day you have to make, you know, look for phone calls, look for showing up at places where you might get a listing, where you might find a buyer. So being a grinder is number 2. And then 3 is just really being able to listen, you know, and that's the most important thing, you know, being able to listen and sort of having that professional attitude, that because people know that, you know, if you're just a poser or if you're just, you know, faking it. But I think, you know, just looking around here, I think everybody here is somebody that, you know, has a passion to help people and also a great deal of professionalism. I mean, I've seen all of you guys answer calls this morning from people looking for stuff. And so I guess, you know, making themselves available is kind of part of it too, but those are, you know, the vision, leadership, and that's easy even at the agent level. You have to vision yourself as how you want to be. The ability to have a plan and execute it and alter it if you need to, and then just having that professionalism. So those are the three things.
No, I think it's a good list for sure. So, you guys got anything else for Mr. Jones before we shut this episode down? We appreciate you coming up, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you guys.
Yeah, Jim's always great. He's always. I think he brings those three things to his profession and his job. I think that's an important point. So. The professionalism, the willingness to answer the phone, the willingness to have really in-depth, pretty personal relationship conversations. I think that's a pretty cool aspect of what Jim brings to the table too. So.
Yeah, I always like to be there for you to help. If I don't know the answer, connect you to somebody. And I think that at the real agent level is the same thing too.
And I think of us as in the real estate. I mean, every client we have is different.
Yeah.
On Jim's end of it, every client, that he sells a franchise, it's different. They have different goals, they have different, personalities, and different asks. And, Jim, I believe, exhausts, to try to match those asks with the United Country system so everybody can, understand and get out of the value what they're getting for out of the gate, and not, just selling them a franchise and going on, knowing what they want and making sure it's the right move for them before, and not just going by, a slide deck.
More to it than the fancy sign outside, I get it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and be able to connect the dots between like yourself and then somebody else that you've had experience with that's like, oh, they have the same goal as so-and-so. You need to contact this person.
Yep.
Well, thank you. That's a very nice compliment. I appreciate that.
They don't come cheap.
Yeah.
With that, we'll wrap this one up. Jim, we appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for watching this episode of the Stand on Your Investment podcast presented by UC Hunting Properties and Expedition Land Management.